I'd like to send a big thank you to all of our partners today, InCorp, HSBC, and our developer partner, Core5. So I think we can begin. I'll begin with my presentation first, a little bit of an update on the northern market and Vietnam in general on the manufacturing side. And then we'll move on to Tiffany, then Jack, and then Duck for the final presentation. So let's begin. Delayed? Okay. Okay, so just getting straight into it, I think these presentations are very similar all the time that we do them, but why Vietnam? So as you can see, it's a really young, dynamic workforce. We've known that for many years. The VND and USD exchange rate is very strong compared to the other countries in the region. FDI, attraction policies, and CIT incentives are really favorable compared to some of its competitors. They are strong in Malaysia and Indonesia as well, but Vietnam the government is constantly coming up with new CIT incentives. I think what's important to note is the free trade agreements. Since the World Trade Organization agreement in '95, so over 30 years now, we've seen that progressive number of trade agreements coming into the country. With one of the main ones in 2019, we've seen a lot of progress of foreign investment coming in as the EVFTA. The location, geographically, it's fantastic. It's in the central part of the region, the APAC region. So it really is great as an export-import market. For production shifting from China, we're still seeing a heck of a lot of investment coming in from mainland China, not just from Chinese businesses, but also US, European business that have set up shop in China for a long time, looking to diversify or looking to fully exit China. And again, the soaring e-commerce and logistics sectors, there's a lot going on there. So just to go into some of the macroeconomics, I think Duck later on, he will go through some of this, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but we had a very impressive GDP last year at 5.1, I think highest in the region, or second highest in the region. And this year, this is a bit out of date, reading online, and I've seen that it should be around 6.55 by the end of this year. That's what's forecasted. Manufacturing salaries still very low in the region, second lowest only to Indonesia. And we know Vietnam's workforce is a very young age, the median age just over 32. Okay, so as an export-oriented economy, we've really seen Vietnam move up the value chain. For many years it has been agricultural based, but now we're seeing electronics, obviously, since companies, organizations like Samsung have come into the country. You can see the computers, electronics, telephones and their parts, some of the main exports, and the main countries that we export to are US and China. Okay, this might be a little bit wrong. It needs to be updated a little bit, but the amount of free trade agreements now is around 16, I believe, bilateral and free trade, with more in the pipeline, I think two or three more. So there's a lot ongoing. There's a lot to be excited about. It's very promising compared to our counterparts in the region. I just wanted to focus a little bit on the EVFTA because there's a lot of focus on the revenue, the FDI coming from the ASEAN countries. But since the signing of the EVFTA in 2019, you can see that increase. Obviously, just from here, you can see how much it's gone up since then. There's been a number of significant deals, not only in the north, but in the south as well. So if you look at the top 5, some of the ones to note, Denmark pushed into the top 5 with that Pandora, not too big, but Lego was huge investment into Bingzhong. Looking at the total FDI from 1988 until now, so we can see that South Korea, Singapore, and Japan are still the top 3, very close. But in terms of the number of projects, a huge amount of projects from South Korea. Okay, and the FDI overview. So, total registered FDI. It's quite interesting to see that the manufacturing and processing accounts for 70%. I think it's over 70%. of the total registered FDI. And I like to see that the north is actually higher in terms of the newly registered business coming in on the manufacturing side. So by the province, I've just highlighted this because I think it's interesting to see that I don't want to make the north just sound like it's better than the south, but you can see that Bắc Ninh has a huge number of new projects, but also is equal to Binh Duong. So there is still a lot of investment heading into the south, not just the north. And going into that, I'll give you some examples of some of the largest manufacturing FDI projects up to now this year. So Trina Solar, the first one in the north in Tai Nguyen, we were working on that transaction for some of the locations for them, but they finalized in their current location in Tai Nguyen to expand their business and invest another 440 million US dollars into that. But what you can see, what to really focus on is this. It's all high value add. A lot of it is electronics. There's also the semiconductor business coming into the country a lot more now. We're receiving a lot of inquiries from Taiwan especially, and China on the semiconductor side. And a good update for the south, the last table that we did similar to this in the south was a lot more lower value add, but we're seeing still some higher value add in investing into the south. So you might want to take a picture of this. It's interesting to show the rise of the solar production in the north. We get a lot of these inquiries. One of the competitors is actually Mexico right now because it's very good economically for some of these businesses moving out of China, being close to the US markets. But you have to really see that we never have any interest of solar going to the south. It's always the north. So we have a lot in deep sea, in Bắc Sang, Tai Nguyen, as you can see, and also Tai Binh. So catching that electronics wave, you can see who's already moved into the country here. I've just highlighted those so you can see that. And also, I also highlighted Pegatron because there's some news that Pegatron are looking at completely moving out of China, already in deep sea Haiphong, bringing their whole operations to Vietnam, which I think will be a big statement if they do. Okay, so land costs. Looking at the Northern Economic Zone supply and performance, we've got Bắc Ninh, the tier 1 markets, Bắc Ninh, Haiphong, Hưng Yên, Hai Dung, Bắc Giang, some missing off here. I think it's interesting to note that, says here, Bắc Ninh around 155, 160. We're seeing land asking prices go above 180 now in Bắc Ninh. Hưng Yên, nearly accurate, but even over $140, $145 a square meter, depending on the industrial park or the cluster. So you can see that since 2017, that steady increase in land prices. Okay, some stats here on the amount of leasable area in the north, with 83% occupied, I think is relatively strong, and average land price at $138 a square meter. Okay, we talk about this a lot, and this is in a lot of our presentations, but I think it's key and it's important to note that the infrastructure is much stronger in the north than it is in the south. We all know it. The government puts a lot more money into the north infrastructure. The roads receive around 5 times more freight traffic than what is in the south, which is quite surprising considering all of the industrial parks, how big the south is. So I'm just noting a few important ones that are in the pipeline. We have the Ring Road 4, which we all know, around Hanoi. And then we have the Ring Road, Bắc Giang and Vinh Phúc provinces connecting those two. That's interesting for me because we're seeing a lot of investors looking at these second-tier provinces, these up-and-coming provinces with lower land price, still close to the main consumer market of Hanoi, close to the airport, and not too bad access right through to Haiphong port as well. So that's an interesting one, I think. And some of the existing ones which are important for some of the deals we've worked on. Number 13, the Ninh Binh Expressway. Myself, Hang, Phung, and Quang, our team, we're constantly on this road down to Hanam, Tai Binh, Nam Ding, Ninh Binh, pretty much 3 times a week. So the infrastructure is really good for that. And the last one, the Tai Nguyen. Tai Nguyen's receiving a lot of interest at the moment as well. Not much land, unfortunately, but there are some ready-built projects coming up there as well. Okay, for the logistics landscape, the drivers still 3PL, retail, e-commerce and manufacturing. The limitations that we still have is the technology, the industry 4.0, fragmentation. Again, the infrastructure on the logistics side is obviously still not fully there. It's not as good as the other emerging markets or more developed markets. Interesting to note the amount of freight volume, 75% of the freight volume goes through 6 out of 75 ports. So it shows that the Nam Ding Vu, Haiphong, these ports, and also Ba Via, Vung Tau are just major export-import locations. And to give some interesting information on the investment strategies, a lot of logistics investors like APL and different logistics companies, they're looking at different ways, M&As and buying and selling in Vietnam. And yeah, it's difficult because they're trying to apply the best practices, robotics, automation. So it's just not there yet in terms of acquiring facilities with that inside. So some future forecasts. As you can see, Ving Group have already started using 1,200 robots, ABB robots in their welding processes. And also KTG Industrial, which I think is really interesting, has developed their 4.0 ready-built factories in Dong Nai in the south. And going on to the sustainable and eco IPs, I think this is more of interest to everyone. MPI and Unido launched a plan in 2020 to add more eco IPs to the country. Deep Sea is the only European managed one that has really high quality European services. But on the ground level, what we do know is there are other developers such as BW. Sorry if I miss any out that are here now, but they are expanding their business, building eco parks, going through that process now in the south and looking into the north as well. There is one eco park in Hung Yen, VTK, clean energy park as well. So there's a lot going on, what we're experiencing. The main challenge for me and my team on ground level, I would say a lot of our inquiries, they fall short of investing in Vietnam. They decide not to, or they slow the process down because of the skilled labor, the amount of skilled labor in Vietnam. That's still a problem. There's an abundance of labor, especially in the north, but it's still at that lower skilled level. So we do need that socio-economic reform, the 21 to 2030, to start really pushing up educational reform, more universities, more courses. And finally, infrastructure again. Like I said, it is much better in the north, but it's still insufficient, underdeveloped. So we hope there's an improvement there over the next few years. Okay, that's really it for me today, a quick update. I wanted to keep it short because we've got 4 presentations today. I'm going to pass you on to the next presenter, and if you have any questions, we will have a panel at the end. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming and joining with us today. I'm Tiffany. I'm in charge of business developments from Core5. It's my great pleasure today for me to join with Savills and 2 other speakers from HSBCs and InCorps to share about what is the perspective from a developer, especially in these industrial landscapes of the north. Because we are actually doing this more actively with our project in northern Vietnam. So with further ado, I think Tom's has already discussed and shared a lot about why the north is so attractive towards the FDI investor, especially in manufacturing and processing sector. So I'm just gonna be briefly summarize all that so that everyone will have an idea more clearly on why northern Vietnam nowadays get more attention from the FDIs. So further ado, the first reasons is the labor competitiveness. Generally speaking, you can see from the map here, Vietnam is a young population. We reach around 99.5 million this year, and the employables people is about 52 million. Our unemployment rate is relatively low. And looking at this map here, you can see that the worker in southern regions receive an average monthly salary of 9.3 Vietnamese dong. So converting to USD, about $366, is the highest among all the Vietnam's 6 distinct economic regions. This representing 8.1% growth year by year, according to General Statistics Office. And these regions comprise of the 6 localities, including Ho Chi Minh City. We have the highest, is the biggest city and also have the highest average salary. And the River Delta region comparing to the southern regions, the average salary is still around 8.6 million, so up to 6.2%, comparing to the south up to 8.7% increase. So that's actually already showed that the labor in the north are still more comparative, which is one of the main reason for FDIs to choose the north from our perspective. When we when we receive the inquiries from the investor. And bringing to the next slide is of course you can see all this number from Savills report is very comprehensive information. The thing that I want to point out is that comparing to the south, the north supply in terms of the price of the industrial lands and the availability of the industrial land in tier 1s are still very comparative to the south. The north average land price is about $138 per square meter, whereas the land price in the south is 20% more. And if you want to secure a strategic location in tier 1, for example, like Bình Dương or Ho Chi Minh, the land price can go up to $300. Whereas in the north, are still in Bắc Ninh, are still comparable about 180. So, and also in the south, if you want to locate your manufacturing location in tier 1 locations such as Bình Dương or Ho Chi Minh, to closer to your supply chain is very costly. So you have to move away from there to Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, to Long An, to Dong Nai, and everyone knows that Dong Nai land is very limited now. And so it's actually bring me up to my next slide, which is the infrastructures. That's the concern for the people in the south. If the investor in the south, if they want to choose the south, then they need to move to Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu. The infrastructures in the south is still behind the north. Like a personal experience, I was traveling from Ho Chi Minh to Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu. In normal hour, it takes me 2 hours for 80 kilometers, but in traffic jam, it takes me 4 to 5 hours. Whereas in the north, I travel from Hanoi to Hải Phòng. The total distance around 100 kilometers more or less than that. It's only take me one and a half hours on the highway. And I'm not talking about going to Hanoi because it's crazy. But then it's comparing to that, the travel distance, the minutes that it takes for me to travel as the longer distance in the south, in the north, comparing to the south, already show that is how the infrastructure in the north much more advanced in the south. You also can blame the northern driver more aggressive, but I don't think that is the key. It's the infrastructures. So you see the map on the right-hand side. We have seen that is the more express highway developed in the north. Is the pink colors is the express highway, and comparing to the south, there are actually only 2 or 3 already been implemented. And further zoom into the north. All of the express highway that connecting the capital Hanoi to the border of China to the industrial port city of Hải Phòng is all being connected and implemented. So highlight further from the Tom's presentations, he traveled a lot from Hanoi to Hà Nam, Thái Nguyên, Thái Bình, all through these convenience connectivities. So this is to the investor, it's very important because it's reduced the logistic costs. Road logistics in Vietnam are still the main mode of transportation. So this development of the road connectivity in the north is highlighted the attractiveness of the northern to the foreign direct investor. Last but not least is the economic zone tax saving. So this one, why is all of my customers, when they talk to me, they highlight this this benefit. I always ask them why you choose Vietnam, why you choose the north. That's my curiosity as well, and they always say that because your country give us the tax incentive. So this is the highest tax incentive is applied in the economic zone. So comparable from the north and the south, there's more economic zone in the north comparing to the south because according to the government planning, more economic zones are located in the coastal or the border areas due to geographical and economic reason. So that's why it's act as one of the factor that is attract more attention from the investor when they choose to invest in the north rather than the south. So that's why we as Core5, we also a foreign direct investment, we decided to focus most of our project in the north. Our industrial platform rolled out first in the north actually. 4 out of 8 projects are located in the north, and 3 out of them are ready to hand over. So we have in Hưng Yên, Core5 Hưng Yên, and Core5 Hải Phòng, Quảng Ninh, and Vĩnh Phúc will come in next year. And I will share more of our perspective in the next few slides to show you what kind of the industry that investing in the North Vietnam, and what is the nationalities and what others requirement from them when they investing in Vietnam. So I think people are very familiar with the map on the right hand side. Vietnam divided into 3 clusters, the north, the central, and the southern. So the northern are more focused in electronics, automotive, and higher heavy industry, where the south are more traditional industry like textile, pharmaceutical, now a bit more on the consumer and the electronics. But is this high value electronics and automotive are still focused in the north. So then it's also leads to the type of the industry that moving to the north as well. And then for the FDIs, the nationalities of the country that moving to the north, this graph, thanks for Savills, they have shared that China is the leading country, followed by Singapore, Hong Kong. But honestly, Singapore, Hong Kong, I think is still from mainland China. It's from my own personal experience. And mostly they also focus in the north because of the similarities of the cultures and the proximity of the distance that help them to feel more comfortable investing their first investment in the north. And this showed us actually most of the Chinese investment, they investing in manufacturing. And this graph is showing where is in Vietnam they focus more. Very surprising me for Tây Ninh, but I believe that is the hub of the furnitures and wood processing. And China, that's one of the main earlier type of industry that moving from Vietnam from earlier times, so it's not surprising. But then we also see a lot of that from the northern province like Hải Phòng, Quảng Ninh, and Bắc Giang. And so why Chinese or a lot of Chinese speaking country, I would group them into like that because it's a I would say Chinese speaking country, including mainland China, Taiwanese, Hong Kongnese, and moving to Vietnam. It actually is further accelerated by the trade tension between EU and US. You can see here the US has actually, and the EU actually has implemented a lot of tariff on different products that I highlight here. And this is the most recent one. We'll get the tariff tax from EU and US, which is the battery part, electrical vehicles, lithium ions, EV batteries, solar cell, steel and aluminum product, and medical device. So this actually reflects in the type of the industry that moving to the North Vietnam, particularly in Core5 projects. I think most of our customers in Core5 Hải Phòng and Quang Ninh are from the electronics and EV type. And another reason why Chinese or a lot of FDI moving to Vietnam, I think, is also due to the green energy initiative from the governments. So I think everyone knows that by 2030, Vietnam trying to replace more green energies than using the coal as the traditional methods. And also, Vietnamese government give a lot of incentive to the renewable energy projects, like the tax break, the CIT tax, and also the exemption from the import duties. So it's further accelerate more renewable project like solar panel production in Vietnam. So this is what bring me to my next slide. Is about type of the industry that I want to be focused more. So according to this graph, Savills they show that the leading industry is electrical equipment, followed by the electronic computer, and the third largest is the rubber and plastics. And in Core5 is reflect that is industry as well. And most of our customer come from the electronics and automotive sector. And this is the summary of the most recent FDI that invest in Quang Ninh. Why I'm highlight this? Because you can see this all focus on automotive, green energy, and electronics. And Quang Ninh is rising as a very attractive destination for a lot of investors because of its relatively cheaper in terms of the lands, and is comparing to Hải Phòng, and its connectivity to the China border. And especially for solar manufacturing, we also see mostly is focused on the North Vietnam. And this slide I also get the reference from Savills, and because we see this it's just so obvious that all of these guys are moving to the north. So that's why between the Savills report and what we see in our real inquiries, we also witness this similar trends. And one more thing is that in Core5, we see that 37% of our customers are from China, and most of them are choosing the site around 2,000 to 5,000 square meter. So it indicates that they are mostly from the SME, which is like the supply chain moving to support the Queen Bee guys, and also signal the fact that they are still trying to balance between the diversification supply chain from the China. So they're not moving everything to Vietnam, but gradually they're moving slowly. And and from our perspective, especially for Chinese company, they prefer to lease ready-built factories or ready-built facility than they buying lands, because their style is they want to change and switch very fastly because of this unstable geopolitical context, especially the tension between China and US. And last but not least, we also see a lot of the sustainability requirement from our FDI investor. So according to the UOB Business Outlook Review, there's more than 9 out of 10 businesses in the region believe that sustainability is important for their business. And out of all this region, Thailand and China are among the countries that adopt sustainability more in their manufacturing production. So when Chinese company moved to Vietnam, more or less they raised that to us. And Core5, we are all LEED certified project in our building. So this also highlight an importance factor benefit for our Chinese occupier. So that is end of my sharing for all of the type of the industry, or what we see from the perspective of Core5 developer. The next few slides I'll run very quickly just to introduce about my company and what project and what's the current that we have. And then after that, I will hand over the speech to the next speaker. So in Core5 is the brand founded by Indochina Kajima. So it's the joint venture between Americans and a Japanese company. Indochina Capital is already in Vietnam for more than 23 years, and we invest mostly in real estate, but not industrial. And Kajima is a Japanese construction start as in Japan, but they have expanded gradually over the world. They have projects Core5 in America, in Europe. And this is Core5 in America. We have more than 80 projects in the state and more than 40 projects in the Europe. And in Vietnam, we invest around more than 400 millions into the industrial platform. The first 7 projects we will launch in the north, and the 1 project will be in the south. And our products, we build ready-built factory, we build ready-built warehouse, we do build-to-suits. We are one-stop service for all the investors. We support them from not just providing the space, but providing legal advice, assisting them from the beginning when they just came and see the site until they can start their productions. So we pride ourselves as their partners, not just the landlord. So the next few slides. Next few slide is our Core5 Hai Phong. Hưng Yên and Quang Ninh is already finished and hand over to most of our tenants. Our Hai Phong is luckily, thanks to the movement of Chinese, we are fully occupied, and most of our tenants are Chinese speaking country actually. And in our projects we have several type of factory. We have single story, we have mezzanine floor, we have double story as well. I think we are the only one who have double stories factories in the north, apart from, I don't know, like, yeah, at the moment. Yeah, the most new is double factory. I'm not talking about the older one and local guys.
Hi, good morning, everybody. First of all, thank you Savills for hosting this very informative event. I think the reason we want to organize this event and having Core5 and HSBC involved in this event is because it's a very exciting time for Hanoi and especially the northern region. I can't believe I'm saying that because I'm based in Saigon, the south, and I spent many years promoting investments in Vietnam in the south because everybody thinks that's a commercial hub of Vietnam. But the last year or two, Hanoi and the northern provinces are making much more noise than the south. So I think I have to learn more about the north and Hanoi to promote as an investment destination for foreign investors. Just to get started, very quick background about myself. I was born in Vietnam but grew up in Canada. But I spent the majority of my adult life in Vietnam. I came back in 1998 and I've been here for a very long time. I probably know Vietnam more than my parents. I'm a Canadian CPA and Vietnamese CPA, and I'm currently the CEO of InCorp, which is the multi-country Asian corporate services firm. Right, so InCorp, we quickly do one-stop shop services for foreign companies setting up in Vietnam, from market entry, licensing, incorporation to compliance work, accounting, tax, HR, and payroll. Speaking of projects, the topic this morning is manufacturing, especially investments in Hanoi and northern region. But just to give an overview of where the FDI investment in Vietnam is in the first half of the year, total registered FDI was 15 billion, in Vietnam, which is represents a 13% year-over-year increase from 2023. Just the manufacturing sector alone was at 10.68 billion, which represents 26% year-over-year increase, and that actually represents 70% of total FDI into Vietnam. So, obviously, manufacturing is a very big and significant sector of FDI investments in Vietnam, as you've heard from our last two previous presentations by Tom and Tiffany. In terms of new projects, we had there was 541 new projects in the first half of 2024, and there were 390 significant projects that had increased their capital investment. More and more of the bigger manufacturing companies are pouring in more capital investments into Vietnam. Okay, so Vietnam's substantial FDI growth, again, is driven by the manufacturing sector, and that's, of course, is the strategic and policy of the Vietnamese government, is to really drive the manufacturing sector as the leading industry for growth in Vietnam. Especially over the past few years, when Vietnam opened its door 25 years ago or so, manufacturing sector was really low tech in the textile and garment industry. But over the last 5 to 10 years, we're seeing more and more upward advancement to the high tech manufacturing sector, and that's where Vietnam wants to go and attract the investments into the more high tech, high value chain manufacturing sector. You heard a lot about the electronics industry and the solar, right? So I think Vietnam as a policy is don't want to attract low tech manufacturing investment, but more of the high tech. Right, and this screen really shows you where the investments priorities are of Vietnam. If you look at 2023, the red sector of the pie of the chart, manufacturing represents 70% of total foreign investment, and that's been the case for the last 7 years or so. Right? Manufacturing is a dominant sector, and it's huge in 2023. As you can see, the investments coming in from that we showed in the 2 slides ago. Second biggest industry is electricity, gas production, and distribution. Third is science technology. Fourth is real estate. I'm sure Savills want that to be number 1, but real estate is number 4 sector in foreign investments, and then followed by retail and finance and banking. Right. So, just a really quick highlight of each of the sectors. So on the manufacturing, foreign direct peaked at around 25 billion in 2023 and growing. We expect more growth in the next 2-3 years. Real estate, I think, is we're seeing a turnaround, a rebound this year, and by all estimation, 2025, 2026, we'll see the tick up in the cycle in real estate, which I think will make everyone happy. Core5 and Savills, I'm sure. All right, why is there such a big attraction in manufacturing investments into Vietnam? The first of all, it's a policy of the government to attract in manufacturing investments in Vietnam, and the government has given a number of tax incentives to attract these investments. Corporate income tax in Vietnam right now is at 20% as the standard, but in certain sector, the government is only charging or giving out a 10% corporate income tax rate for sectors in the manufacturing area, especially in the renewable energy, scientific research, software development, and high-tech companies. So we see a lot of high-tech companies investing in the northern region and in the central region, especially in the Da Nang area. Da Nang wants to build itself as the semiconductor hub of Vietnam. And there's other tax incentive as well as VAT incentive. There's 0% VAT rate for exported goods, non-tariff areas, processing enterprise, so 0% VAT charge, and only 5% VAT for essential sectors like foodstuff, medical products, and agriculture. And of course, the standard VAT rate is 10%, but these other industry get more the beneficial VAT rate at 5% and 0%. Global minimum tax became a law last year, and the purpose of the global minimum tax is to level the playing field because countries were, giving a lot of good tax incentive to attract investments, and from a global perspective, they want to level the playing field, make it more fair. So global minimum tax is applied globally, not just in Vietnam, and companies are required to pay 15% global minimum tax for companies that have consolidated revenue of over 750 million euros. All right, so this will impact large manufacturing companies like Samsung and others that have very high revenue. Whereas in the past, Samsung enjoyed a very good tax incentive regime in Vietnam, but now they need to pay 15% global minimum tax. But for Vietnam's purpose, very few companies meet the threshold of 750 million euro revenue, right? So that shouldn't impact the majority of the companies in Vietnam. Right, so licensing and regulatory process for manufacturing company that want to set up in Vietnam. First step is these companies needs to sign lease contract and get all the requirements, documents required to start the process, and then they need to apply for the IRC and the ERC. IRC it takes 30 days, and ERC takes 10 working days. And after that, there are other certificates that need to get. And then once they have all these applications are done and certificates, then they can start importing machines, equipment, and others to set up their manufacturing plant. So it's a pretty straightforward process for manufacturers who want to set up in Vietnam. Right. The next few slides, I want to highlight, the 5 northern provinces that are really attracting foreign investments in the northern region. Haiphong is obviously the number one. Total FDI attracted reached almost 700 million USD in 2024. There's 47 new projects granted approval. And the infrastructure in Haiphong, has been very well developed over the past few years. Of course, there's deep sea in Haiphong and VinFast manufacturing plant in Haiphong. So Haiphong has always been the biggest city outside Hanoi for foreign investments, and they have a number of special economic zones in the Haiphong area. But outside of Haiphong now, there are other cities that are starting to build up their industrial zones, building up in their infrastructure to attract foreign investments. There's Lai Châu and Phu Tho. In Lai Châu, it's a strategic location, access to key resource and nearby industrial hubs. They have rare earth mining and processing. So that represents a major manufacturing opportunities. Plans to extract billion tons annually by 2050. Process and manufacturing sector. Futal experienced an index industrial growth of 38.4% compared to the same period last year. So the index of industrial production growth, is representative of the amount of manufacturing that's taking place. It's a strategic location because it's close to Hanoi and the major highways, so making it the prime location for setting up a manufacturing plant. And last two but not least, Bắc Giang and Thanh Hóa. Bắc Giang, I think it's dominated a lot by Chinese companies setting up there. So Bắc Giang experienced IIP growth of 27.5% compared to last year. And again, it's a strategic location near Hanoi and the major industrial zones. So provide strong logistics for manufacture. The province is, the Bắc Giang is becoming an electronics manufacturing hub, including a 1.5 billion investment from Foxconn. And the interesting aspect is that once these very big, giant manufacturing companies set up, for example, Foxconn, their whole supply chain ecosystem will follow with them. So that represents a huge investment for Vietnam. And like Tom and Tiffany mentioned earlier, a lot of these companies are Chinese manufacturing companies, supply chain as part of Foxconn that are moving into Vietnam. So Bắc Giang is becoming an electronic hub. Thanh Hóa again experienced IIP growth of 17.1% compared to last year. It's strategically positioned near major transportation networks, and it has a diverse manufacturing base, textile, agriculture, and construction materials. So those are just the highlights of the 5 major cities outside Hanoi in the northern region that are attracting foreign investments. Right. Okay, so that's just a brief highlights of the foreign investments in northern region and the 5 provinces. A couple more slides. Just want to talk about InCorp Vietnam. As I said, we are a pan-Asia company and provide one-stop service for market entry, tax accounting, and pay. We actually have 10 cities in China that are serving clients moving outbound into other Asian countries. So we see a lot of inbound companies from China in the last 6 to 12 months. We're very busy. That's why I'm setting up I've set up a Hanoi office, but growing the team here fast to serve the Chinese companies and non-Chinese companies that are moving into the northern region. We do about 10 proposals a week for inbound Chinese companies that needs to set up their company, that needs payroll services, HR, recruitment services. So there's a lot of activity in the north. We're very excited, and I hope you all are, as our 10 InCorp cities in China are sending out outbound companies to Vietnam. We are seeing a lot of that inbound coming in. Okay. So again, these are our major services. We've been around for 30 years, and we have over 1,000 professional staff providing professional services.
Able to have a joint hand and give the audience a different setup expertise that we are able to add value to you today. So just briefly, my name is Đức. I'm actually heading the international bankings for HSBC Viet Nam, based in Hanoi, and our office just opposite the Lotte Tower, so Capital Place. So on the banking finance, I would like to briefly touch on to give you the audience, which the previous speaker already gave you some different perspective of the FDI, the macro. But again, just in a summary, let me start with the Vietnam macro. So basically, I would not necessarily go into the details, but again, just call out a few highlights. So again, I would really touch on the GDP. So GDP of Vietnam last year, we have experienced a disappointing performance of only 5%, and that's because that we have been the open economies, and we're well connected with the consumer market like in the West, US, EU. But again, all the consumer power in the consumer market actually is being impacted by the inflationary pressure. So as a domino effect, all the activity in Vietnam actually have came down since last year, and that actually result in the sort of like quite a disappointing GDP that we as a country we expecting it gonna be a strong recovery after COVID, but again it didn't happen in last year. But again, coming into this year, we have observing a significant recovery because again, if you look at on the last 2 months, which the data has been released by the MPI, for the last 2 months in June and July, our GDP has grown consistently of 6.9%. And that actually is on the back of we have seen the recovering of the export order has been resumed. Again, across all the major export sector like electronic related, textile and garment, and not just only also the agricultural product export of Vietnam. So that also giving us the confidence that HSBC Houseview has confidently revised our forecast for this year 2024. Vietnam would be able to achieve the GDP of 6.5 with the very strong recovery across in terms of the investment, inbound investment, as well of the trade activities. Now come to the FDI investment coming to in the first half of this year. Again, some other speakers already highlight how major of the investment has become important for Vietnam, especially in the northern region. But again, from our statistic, we're also looking into a deeper review. Although from the set of data by MPI, Singapore is the leading country investing into Vietnam with more than $4.3 billion for the first 6 months. But underneath of that, Singapore appear to be investment. Actually, 95% actually belong to origination from China and Taiwan. So if you recalculate that data with the direct investment coming from China and Taiwan, so again for this year 2024 first half, China and Taiwan is the leading country with a big investment into Vietnam. So again, that also gives us perspective of how again, the Vietnam has been positioned in terms of really attracting the investment. And obviously, what we also been observing because of the ongoing geopolitical tension between, again, that has been lasting for a few years, and it doesn't have any sign of, stop, and it's still evolving. And again, China has been away the largest manufacturing hub of the global economy, and they have no choice to really diversify their activity to other country, neighboring country, and I guess Vietnam is one of them. Okay, so let me just give you a more perspective in terms of the trend. Okay, so actually what we have been observing, obviously through all the macro FDI investment into the country, and what we have obviously seen that the trend of manufacturing diversification out of China is continue increasing. And again, it has been led by the electronic-related sector. We have seen that has been coming in the past year in terms of the mobile device components. That has been always starting from the low value chain in terms of the very small components, like the board and also the cover, the glass cover. But again, in the recent year, what we have also seen that the supply chain of electronic-related manufacturing has been further evolved themselves. And in the recent year, we have seen, again, the high value chain components. Again, some speakers already touched on the semiconductor. That is true, because we already seen some of the high value semiconductor packaging already present in the country, and the trend is still continue on. And now what we also seen, the main board, the consumer electronic battery, that also coming to as a full ecosystem of the what sort of electronic related manufacturing on the consumer product. And also on the textile and garment, another key export sector of Vietnam. Vietnam has been perceived of manage sort of like a downstream apparel production, and again, that also mean mainly exporting to the West, like retailing market like US, Europe, and Japan. But what we also seen in the recent year that the ladder of the upstream and midstream investment within the textile and garment has evolved themselves. It's not just about the downstream apparel sort of like manufacturing, but we have seen the fabric making, the yarn dyeing process which deemed to have a big capital investment has already came into Vietnam. And again, what we also seen that some of the foreign investors actually taking the acquisition from other existing plant. And again, some of them actually from Chinese foreign investor and also to Hong Kong. Again, another trend that we also seen that it's going to be evolving in terms of the digital development of Vietnam, because again, Vietnam is a young population, and actually, I believe that all of us now using smartphone in this small audience today. But again, how that the Vietnam would be able to capture the e-commerce trend is on the back of that the Vietnam government is really putting effort to making a policy development toward the e-commerce to facilitate more e-commerce B2C and B2B facilitation. And what is not just about how the Vietnam government is really facilitating the sort of like this dynamic change, but we also observe that through our customer after the COVID time, a lot of like company is really put forward how that they can embed a more digital platform in their day-to-day operation, and that's where that's gonna be having a more bringing in more efficiency, and again to a certain extent it's gonna be reducing all the manual process within. And last but not least, which is the energy transition of Vietnam. So again, last year the Vietnam government already announced the PDP 8, and I think that's gonna shape the Vietnam energy transition in the coming year. And obviously the renewable energy is going to be playing a big part in terms of the Vietnam transition into a more greener energy. And I think for in terms of some of statistics, we have received that in order for Vietnam, in order to evolve to a more greener energy in the coming year, the amount of capital investment required in order for Vietnam to transit from fossil fuels like coal-fired plant into a more greener energy, and also with the infrastructure investment, it's going to cost roughly about $400 billion US. And that's where all the foreign investors is really keen and going to be playing an important part to help Vietnam achieve this important transition in the coming years. Okay, so this is a very summary slide in terms of like introducing about HSBC. So again, HSBC has been in the country since 1870. We have a long history in this market, and again, what we has been evolving ourselves in terms of like has become the foreign-owned company since 2009. What is mean by that? We do see Vietnam as a growing emerging market in this ASEAN region. And again, for us, we are actually also putting our commitment into this market, and again, be able to serve our corporate client, and also expanding our presence to serve out the young, growing middle class on the retail banking requirement as well. So again, what we have observed in terms of the opportunity from Vietnam, and again the requirement from our customer, we actually focus in terms of like building our key proposition. So in terms of the development, we are now one of the largest foreign bank in the country in terms of investment capital as well as the customer base. We actually, in terms of balance sheet support, we will be able to support our customer up to more than 100 million on a single borrowing limit, and to a group of companies sharing the same ownership, it's going to be 175 million US dollar. As far as if there is any requirement in terms of like lendings or borrowing from the customer. And again, we also embedding in terms of our offering of the digital solution across of all of the solution that we are being offered to our corporate client, and also as well as individual retail client. Again, what we also trying to bring is like, because we are we are not definitely not be able to compete with the truly Vietnamese local bank like Techcombank, Vietcombank. They are very well positioned in the market, and they obviously gonna be by far having the much present. But again, what we're doing differently is like we're focusing on bringing the digital solution and giving our client a seamless experience in terms of like, and we get to bring a way of and become a bit more greener in terms of like operation and supporting client for the seamless transaction. Again, talking about what we do differently, again, especially for the northern, part, we also have a dedicated service in terms of like Chinese-speaking, relationship coverage, who will be able to understand our client from mainland China, from Taiwan, and from Hong Kong, who can speak the same language and be able to service them. And throughout the journey as an origination in terms of establishing the relationship, we also have a follow-through dedicated customer service through our transactional banking offering, as well as our retail banking. And again, last but not least, since we have the full licensing in the country, we also building in a sort of like premium scheme where we actually bringing a solution whereby we actually not just serving the company requirement, but again how that we can also bring in comprehensive solution to serving the company employees in terms of like really promoting the premier solution who any senior officer who may have the cross-border international transfer requirement. So that's where we would be bringing the difference. Okay, moving on, just give you a very light thought in terms of what is the key banking regulation that has been evolving in the recent years. Firstly, when we're talking about the foreign direct investor company, right? Things you need to be aware of, which is on the capital transaction, and that's underneath of that actually requiring any company also have the designated direct investment capital account and that gonna be specialized account would giving the oversight of all the capital injection for your investment and for your ongoing operation. And this is something is very unique to the FDI company. But again, not many companies has well understood. And again, to some certain extent, if we don't do it right at the first place, it may cause some hurdle. Because again, by the time that you are being profitable, you need to make some income repatriation in the form of dividend payments, or even to repay the overseas loans from overseas lender. This has to be well recorded when it's first instant. And again, by working with the with InCorp and also HSBC, we will be able to give you sufficient advisory in terms of like how that can be done on the fairly streamlined manners. The dual control is actually applicable for the company operating in Vietnam. What is mean by that? Vietnam Central Bank of Vietnam actually require each of company have the dual control authorization. One set of representing the legal representative and the group of account owner, and second group of the authorization would be representing what's so called the chief accountant and the person in charge of accounting, in order to maintain the robust control for any banking activity. And next one, which I already briefly touched on, the dividend repatriation, as long as the company is profitable, and that can be validated through your audited financial income. And again, one of the another aspect that the company needs to fulfill, which is like you need to declare your tax for any single fiscal year that you are planning to make the dividend with. But again, that's going to be, as Slim people said, as long as you also having done on the capital injection and having the capital account. And last but not least, which is the offshore loan. So that is, again, another aspect that is going to be being very much relevant to your investment and again, ongoing operation. And again, the offshore loan has been slightly changed by the local regulation in terms of like some of the requirement by the State Bank of Vietnam in terms of like, and even now for any short term which is less than 12-month tenor, the company needs to provide a clear purpose on why that you need such funding requirement on a short-term basis, and that needs to be locked as a record under the State Bank of Vietnam portal. And that's just some of the key change that I just want to give you the audience an overview of the key regulation. And And that's come to my last of my presentation, and happy to take the question.